The next book I read was Adverbs by Daniel Handler, and I was really excited to read this because it is Lemony Snicket. Daniel Handler is Lemony Snicket, and I've never read any of his other books besides the series of Unfortunate Events, so I was really excited and it sounded really good, but it was just okay. I feel like I need to read it again sometime in the future, not right now. There's multiple different stories and they all kind of are somewhat interconnected, and I started reading it and then I put it down for a really long time and I picked it up and I just kind of finished it because I just wanted to finish it. It was good. It was just, I forgot who was connected to who and I just didn't get that into it again. So I feel like I need to give this another chance sometime. Next is Anne and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. You don't know how much I love this book. I would normally not pick up a book that look like this. Now I know it's stupid to judge books by their covers and I would normally not pick this up. First of all, I don't usually like people on my covers, even though there are exceptions to that, and it just looks really girly. But John Green suggested it in a vlog a while ago. Picked it up and I started reading it and fell in love. This book is just, it's about Anna and she goes to Paris for like a boarding school, and she's not excited, which first off, I'm sorry. Going to Paris for a boarding school, how could you not be excited? It's Paris. It's more than just a very girly, romantic, you know, young adult novel, which made it really amazing. And you should read it. And even if you're a guy, John Green suggested, so, you know, so good. Then I read Lola and the Boy Next Door, also by Stephanie Perkins, and I loved it. I did not love it as much as Anna and the French Kiss, but it was still so amazing. I think because Anna and the French Kiss took place mostly in Paris was just this added bonus for me. Still a solid, good book. Next I read Let the Circle Be Unbroken by Taylor, and I read Roll of Thunder earlier in the year and I loved it. It's a kid's book about this African American family that lives in the South in America, and it's just them living their lives, and it's so interesting, it's so good. You should read this. Next I read Twelfth Night by Shakespeare, and it's Shakespeare. It's good, so you should read it, and I don't know what else to say. But it was neat because I've watched She's the Man many times, and that is Twelfth Night, so it was neat just kind of seeing the similarities. Next I read The Hobbit by Tolkien. Now I have the Lord of the Rings series. I have not read it, and I've watched the movies a while ago and I like the movies. And so I was putting off reading the Lord of the Rings series because it just looked so daunting and big. My friend was getting rid of some books and she was getting rid of The Hobbit, so I took it and I read it one night, just not even meaning to read it, but I just picked it up and I started reading it and I fell in love because it's just so good. It's just fantasy and it's amazing, and the story, you just get pulled right in. And I will read the Lord of the Rings series, but I'm just so much more excited because before I was like, okay, I'll read it, but I wasn't that excited to read it for, I don't know, I just wasn't. And now I can't wait, but it still looks very daunting and long, so I will be doing that sometime, maybe this year, I don't know. Also by Mildred Taylor is The Friendship, and it also follows the same family in Roll of Thunder and Let the Circle Be Unbroken, except it's just a little short story. It's about 50 pages long and has pictures in it. I read it one subway ride and felt a little bit embarrassed just because I was reading a book with pictures. It was clearly a little kid's book, but I didn't care. It's just a good follow-up short story about the family. Next I read Last Summer of the Death Warriors by Francisco X. Stork. He just picks these characters that they're usually minorities, they usually have maybe some part of kind of disability, and it's a young adult novel, and they're just really good, solid books. You should definitely pick it up and read it. Number 49 was The Beedle and the Bard by J.K. Rowling, and at this point I just needed really short books because I was scared that I was not going to be able to read 50 books. So yeah, I know it's short, but so I reread it again. It's good. It's good. You know it's good, so I don't have anything to add to that. My 50th book, which I actually read earlier in the year, and I think this is the first time ever that I've read a novel twice in 1 year, because I usually don't reread books, like I said. So I wasn't meaning to read this, but Paper Towns by John Green. But whatever book I had that I was planning to start, I just wasn't feeling like reading it. So I picked up Paper Town, just thinking I'll just read the first chapter or whatever and put it away and I won't continue. So I was reading the first chapter, second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter, and I just continue. And it just continued and did not stop. I love Paper Towns. I'm going to say it's probably my favorite out of all his. I don't know. I need to read the rest. Paper Towns is so amazing. Just the journey that they take, the characters, and the story is just it's just so good. I haven't read John Green's books. You should. Next, I read the BFG because it was during my exams and I needed something light. I was actually planning on reading Taming of the Shrew next, but during the exams, my brain just can't read Shakespeare. No, it just does not work. So I read the BFG. I've read it before and I loved it, and it's just so good. Next is a book I read years ago and I never reread again, and I loved it, and it's Sketches by Eric Walters. I've read a couple of his other books and they're just really good books. It actually takes place in Toronto and it's about a real place. It's about this 15-year-old homeless girl, and she just ran away from home because of a reason that becomes apparent later on, and she really likes art and she's really good at it, and she finds this place called Sketch. It's for young adult teenagers, people who live on the streets or don't have much, and they can just do art. There are lessons that they can take and everything's free. There's canvases, all these art supplies, and you can create, and you don't even have to be good. It's just a place where you can go and they can just kind of forget their situation and just, you know, do art. It's just a really great book, and I've fell in love with the place, actually, Sketch, and I haven't gone yet. I've always wanted to visit and volunteer, but I haven't gone. So it's just a really good book. Next, I read The Uglies, The Pretties, and The Specials, all by Scott Westerfeld, and it's a really good series. For The Uglies, really about the society where people, when they turn 16, they go into Pretty Town and they get a surgery, and they are all beautiful and perfect, and their bodies are like strengthened, and they're just perfect human beings, but they're all really bubbleheads and stupid. I just really loved how it was getting at how society just puts so much value on images and looks and how you look or how your body weight or whatever, and it's just how, you know, just because what society might deem is beautiful doesn't mean that you yourself aren't. I thought it was really well done. And then The Pretties, it follows Tally, and she actually does get turned into a pretty, which is, I guess, is kind of a spoiler. So Pretties also follows Tally again, and just her journey of trying to fight society. And The Specials, somewhere between The Pretties and The Specials, it kind of lost me, just because it kind of lost its intensity, and I wasn't as sympathetic for all the characters, or I didn't grow to like all the characters, but it's still a really solid series, and it's good. And lastly, what I spent most of my New Year's Eve reading was The Name of the Star by Maureen Johnson. It went in a direction that I was not expecting, but I still loved it. It was the first Maureen Johnson book that I have ever read, and when that one came out, I've wanted to read her books in the past and just haven't had the chance, and when that one came out, I'm like, okay, this sounds really good. It's just really interesting. It goes in a total direction that I was not expecting. So those are all the books that I have read in 2011, and I read 55 and a half books. I'm quite proud of myself. I didn't think I could do it. Some of the books might have been kind of thin, but that is okay, because, you know, if you complete it, you completed it, so that's good. Did you take place in the 50 book challenge? You should. Even if you don't complete, I think it's just neat having a record of all the books that you've read through the year, just so you can kind of look back and see how much you've read, what you would like to reread again, and just kind of have a record. If you don't do the 50 book challenge and you really enjoy reading, I would suggest just writing down all the books you read. Like I said, I'm going to be doing the 50 book challenge again, and you will be seeing videos of that in the future sometime. Maybe I'll do it a little bit more organized and do it for like every month or something. I don't know. So yeah, that's all. Tell me some of the interesting books you have read so I can add to my ever-growing mental list of books in my head. So yeah, that'll be great. Bye.